A lot of the internet right now is incredibly pissed at PlayStation because they just fired a bunch of the developers at Bungie. Sony purchased Bungie not even that long ago, and now they're doing mass layoffs. Anybody that they feel like isn't working hard enough is being cut. And here's the thing, some of the developers that are being fired are award-winning people. The guy who wrote all the music for the Halo games, head writers of previous Bungie projects, the heads of PR, they have just fired so much of the studio that they're now delaying games that were about to come to PlayStation. But let's talk about that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Hey, check it out. It's my Halloween costume. I'm a nice Starfleet officer, right? It's pretty cool, huh? I'm really proud of this. Okay, so here we go. Bungie is the latest studio to be affected by layoffs. These layoffs come 15 months after Sony finalized the $3.7 billion deal to acquire Bungie. The entire game industry has been hit hard by layoffs. Now, when this deal initially went through, the biggest aspect that people were applauding is that Sony didn't just buy Bungie, they bought every employee contract. Now, this is incredibly rare. Typically, when you buy a studio, you're buying the IPs and the brands. You know, if you're buying Call of Duty, you're buying Call of Duty and not necessarily the Call of Duty developers. But Sony paid the higher price to keep the entire staff, and now suddenly, less than even a year and a half later, they decided to do mass layoffs anyways. Now, this is incredibly weird because it's meaning that Destiny 2's next expansion, which I believe is their last expansion, has now been delayed, which is weird. It's getting a 3-month pushback. We don't know the exact number, but it does seem to be a big firing spree going on right now. And Marathon, their next Games as a Service project, has been pushed to 2025. Now, people are wondering, what's the inspiration for this? And I actually think it's sort of confirming this leak that came out a couple days ago, that apparently PlayStation is getting a bit scared as to how hard they're going into games as a service. Like, Sony themselves was really bragging about the fact that they're working on 10 separate games as a service projects. And I roasted them for this. Everybody roasted them for this because even if you're making good games as a service, 10 of them is too much. Sony is known for big, fun, high-budget, great single-player games. Games like God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2 are not just fun, they sell consoles. So trying to suddenly push out 10 separate weird games as a service sequels, like apparently they were doing a Horizon Zero Dawn online free-to-play thing. There's going to be the Last of Us multiplayer at some point. Apparently that stuff was getting expensive, and they started to get nervous that if those weren't profitable enough, the whole company could fall apart. So them trying to back off on that, I think this is where a lot of that budget cutting is coming from, is I think they bought Bungie to help with this, and now that they're not going in full blast on games as a service, they don't need these Bungie employees. But this is just a crappy excuse. It sucks they're firing so many people that just got hired. A lot of people are talking about the fact that this is just something that hurts every game studio. Like, obviously, the people that got fired, well, now you're just not getting money. The studio suffers because they're losing talented people. The remaining freaking employees are suffering because now all their friends just got fired. And now they're going to have to do more work because they don't have them. And later, they're going to have to hire different employees anyways. But here's the craziest thing. I'm just blown away by the fact that they're firing a lot of their people that did the best work. Their head of visual design. Oh my gosh, here's the president of Bungie basically being like, oh man, it sure does suck I had to fire everybody. Oh man, these were exceptional individuals. Everyone's like, hey man, maybe don't complain about the fact that you just fired everybody. Like, did they reduce your salary? Nope, they just fired everybody. This is the craziest firing though, by far. They fired the guy that made all of the freaking soundtracks for Halos 1, 2, 3, 4, and ODST. This is insane. Also, Stubbs the Zombie, they just changed it. He just made it so that it just says Gone Fishing. Of all the people to fire, this guy even was obviously Destiny's lead composer. How expensive could this guy have even been to have? Like, let me even just talk about this mathematically. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated when these companies just fire talented people, because what's the long game here? Like, this guy cannot have been that expensive. Like, PlayStation, even beyond everybody else, why fire people that it had to have been cheap? What number crunching do you go, yeah, the guy who wrote every good Bungie soundtrack ever, yeah, let's fire that guy. Even they're like heads of PR and stuff. It's a horrible dichotomy that one of the most incredible games, years where we're getting back-to-back incredible 10 out of 10 games, and now for some reason it's also the year of relentless, brutal layoffs. I think this is just so crappy, and it's the reason I talk about why I'm against consolidation. Whenever Xbox buys studio, people get mad because I talk about how this is bad for gaming. Xbox buys up stuff and then they end up laying people off. Obviously, Embracer Group buys studios and then ends up laying people off. Epic Games buys stuff like Fall Guys and then fires every single person actually working on Fall Guys. And now PlayStation is doing the same. Almost never is consolidation good. Any freaking person that's being honest that works in this business knows that. It's just the fact that there is less competition. These big juggernauts do not care about art. They don't care about games. They care about profit. That's all that exists to them. And as people like you and me, we care about the games. We care about having the coolest, flashiest, nicest projects that are the most fun to play. I'll admit that I am very frustrated by this because I'm not the biggest Bungie fan. I mean, I'm not sitting here playing Destiny year after year. I mean, I definitely have had my 1,000 hours in freaking Destiny 2 back in the day. I'm frustrated because it sucks that this is just going to keep happening. There's already rumors about the fact that PlayStation next year is going to try and buy up a bunch of studios, and in the short term, it's going to be cool to see what they do with those IP, but I'm nervous about how many people are going to lose their jobs for pretty much no reason. PlayStation, I think you guys are getting onto the right course. I'll fully admit the fact that I'm glad that PlayStation is going to focus again on single-player games, but at what cost? You guys are already doing your best. Like, in my opinion, instead of firing people from Bungie, they should have tried to find a way to take those people and maybe move them to a more profitable section of different PlayStation studios. Insomniac Games has been putting out a big game every 2 years for the last 7 years. Maybe give them some extra employees, some extra developers, some extra PR people. Like, is firing everybody really the correct course of action? I guess, I don't know. This is just some off-the-cuff thoughts because honestly, this does suck. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below and tell me what you're being for Halloween. Hey, it's Halloween today. Hope you guys have a great one and do me a favor and keep dreaming. Look at this. I'm so happy with my uniform. I think it looks so cool. I am secretly obsessed with Star Trek. I've got Star Trek tattoos and stuff, but you can't see them because right now I'm in my fancy uniform. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.